Hey there, it's Blair here, Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. This is your weekly video for Sunday, April 16th. Okay, so we had another interesting week of trading last week. Let's assess our forecast, give ourselves a grade, and then we'll build a new forecast for the coming week. So this yellow line was the forecast that I shared on last week's video. I would give myself probably a C plus, B minus. I mean, I didn't fail. The forecast didn't fail, but it didn't succeed either. So we held below the lows of April 4th. However, we did not go down to the extent that we thought we would, despite the rationale that was shared. So in this week's video, we're going to review that rationale. We're going to review the latest facts that we see, look at some of the upcoming astrophysical events that are very interesting, and update the forecast. Okay, so I've got a lot of analytical concepts and ideas I want to review. So we're going to start with Gann waves. The Gann wave is the yellow and blue lines. This is a lunar cycle. And the default way of interpreting these is blue is typically below yellow. However, things get interesting when you get an inversion like this, where yellow was high, blue is low, that's normal. But then the next yellow is lower than the blue, that's a Gann wave inversion. And then after this, we could either go down to a lower low on blue, but instead we reversed and went up to a higher blue. Okay, so then that was our big clue here that we were going to go to a higher Gann wave yellow. Now, coming into this past week's Gann wave blue, I was expecting, and this was part of the thesis for the forecast, I was expecting that this blue would be lower than the prior yellow. Instead, it was just about equal. So if we go and draw a rectangle here from this bar, which is the Gann wave yellow, and drag it across, you can see we just wicked down into that area on the Gann wave blue and then boosted up quite strongly on Thursday. So this is a sign of strength, okay? That is bullish behavior. And if the normal Gann wave behavior continues coming up here, we're going to be at a higher price point at the next Gann wave yellow on April 26, okay? So that's the first of 7 ideas I want to share with you guys today. Number 2 is going back and looking at a tweet that I shared back in March. So let's turn that on. And we will go over that. It involves some Gann fans. So we'll turn on the Gann fans here. Okay. And just to clean up the chart, we'll turn off the Gann waves, so it's a little bit more readable. So back in March, oh goodness, it was even February 24th. How about that? I issued a tweet talking about an upcoming time-based square out on the Gann square of 9, anchored to the COVID low. And that square out date was March 16th, okay? And March 16th is over here. Now, this is one of these dates that kind of take on more importance in hindsight, in the rearview mirror. So we have this key date here, and what happened on price? Well, we got a huge bullish bar, and we surged above the 1x1 down from the prior high on February 2nd. Okay, again, very bullish behavior. All right, so the fact that this occurred on a Gann time-based square out date is very significant. Okay, so that's reason number 2. Number 3, let's go and take a look at eclipses. We have an eclipse coming up. We're entering an eclipse season. So let's do some analysis on that. And I found something very interesting here. So I'm going to share that with you today. So let's turn off the square outs. Let's turn off the Gann fans. Let's turn on the eclipses, and we're going to use a feature in the time trade script called Eclipse Season to help us visualize things. So we've got that turned on. Now let's zoom out a bit. Okay, so we've got all of these eclipses here, and let's start back post-COVID low. All right, and we're coming out of the COVID low in March 2020, and you'll notice that each of the eclipses that happen during eclipse season can include 2 or sometimes 3 eclipses, depending on the orientation of the planets. And just before I start, just a general comment on eclipses. Eclipses are a period of balance between Earth, Moon, and Sun. So it should be looked at in that light. These are not like extreme scenarios, right? They're balanced scenarios. An extreme scenario is in astrophysics is what happened over here at the COVID low, where Mercury and Venus were at an extreme separation relative to Earth. Okay, well, that's partially why we got this extreme in price. So by understanding that eclipses are periods of balance, we can simply compare price over these balance periods and look at the trend and look at what's happening. So through this period of balance, this eclipse season here in June of 2020, we saw with each subsequent eclipse happen at a higher price, okay? And then we take this period of balance and we look at the next one in December of 2020. Overall, the eclipse season was at a higher price point, and the individual eclipses within that season were at higher prices as well. So let's move forward here into 2021. This is May 2021. Again, this purple box higher than the prior one, and the eclipses within that purple box were at higher prices themselves. And then we come up here to the November 2021 eclipse season. And while this purple box was above the prior one, the individual eclipses within it were reversed. So the first eclipse was a partial lunar eclipse. That was right near the all-time high. And then the second eclipse was a total solar at a lower price point. Now, that is a change in character, okay? So, that doesn't in and of itself indicate, the top is in. However, it's an important change of character. So when you're assessing and analyzing the markets, you need to keep that in mind. And look at what happened afterwards, right? The subsequent eclipse seasons had the first eclipse higher than the second one, right? And the subsequent eclipse seasons all occurred at lower prices than the one over here in November 21. Okay, so here we are here, moving up to October 22, purple box lower than the prior purple box, and each eclipse within this season was lower than the prior one. Okay, so now here we are, we are close to what I believe is another change in character. So obviously, price being up here is higher than the prior eclipse season. Also, I am going to forecast that price at the second eclipse is going to be higher than price at the first eclipse because of that change in character. The other way to gauge the change in character here is the fact that prices moved up above the EMAs. So this is the 103 and 144 EMA. I like to put those on the chart. Matt at Inside the Candle calls these a square of 12. And they are on longer time frames, well, actually on any time frame, they are a very strong EMA. So what's interesting here is the square of 12 is crossed. That's another indication of a change of character on the daily. The last time that happened was back here in March of 22. So it's been over a year with the square of 12 in this bearish configuration. And that ended a little over a week ago with this, or about a week ago, I guess, with this cross. So the 103 is now above the 144. All right. So I do believe the solar eclipse is going to be this first solar eclipse is going to be lower than the second partial eclipse for this reason. And that reason being that, you know, we've got the change in character, we've got the EMA flip, and we've got the purple box higher than the last one. Okay, so that is reason number 3. All right, reason number 4, let's go and take a look at breadth. And here is the latest breadth information. This is the McClellan summation indicator and the McClellan oscillator. McClellan summation turned up back in late March and has been consistently moving up. And McClellan oscillator is in the happy green area as well. So there's no big breadth divergence. There's breadth confirmation of this move up. All right, reason number 5. Let's take a look at liquidity. Okay, liquidity, despite a little drop earlier this week, is kind of stable, right? Liquidity is not being removed from the system anymore the way it was. So we've stabilized at levels right around, you know, about a year ago, April 2022. Okay. Reason number 6 and 7. For these 2 reasons, we're going to flip over to time trades. And we're taking a look at the cues, and a big reason for my bearish thesis over the last few weeks has been number 1, the mass pressure index daily, right? And you can see how the mass pressure index daily here for prior cycles has dropped. So this is a forecast that's based on the last 6 cycles of Venus, and you can see that on these prior parts of of Venus's orbit, there's a very consistent drop. We have not seen that in price yet. Another part of the thesis was that Mercury's speed would pull prices down the way it has in prior cycles. We also have not seen that yet. So this is an example of when what should happen doesn't, right? So, you know, this is a time when, you know, we can't get married to our thesis, and we have to, you know, listen to what the market is telling us. And it is telling us that despite these negative cycles in the market, price is not coming down. It's not coming down the way it used to. So this is definitely another changing character that we're seeing. Okay, so these are reasons 6 and 7. All right, so with all that information, let's go back and rebuild a forecast for this coming week. We're going to flip back over to TradingView, and we're going to go over here to the NASDAQ, and we're going to, with all that information, let's update this arrow to what we think is going to happen here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move our target box up. I still think we get a drop down into the pre-solar eclipse season. However, I do think that price at the partial lunar eclipse will be higher than price at the total solar eclipse here. So the direction of the arrow coming out of the green box is correct. I think the levels are incorrect. Based on the strength that we've seen in the market. I really don't think that we're going to be able to get back through both the square of 12 and one magic level here. So I'm going to bring the bottom of the green up to the magic level here, and so that's like the lowest extent I think is possible in the low 12,000s. And we'll bring this guy up. Let's slap a fib retracement tool on here and see what this looks like. Yeah, so I think about, maybe about a 50% retrace of this last move, which would be right about here. I eyeballed it pretty good. So I think that's pretty reasonable. So based on this, we're going to move this yellow line up here, and we're going to drop it right between the 50 and the 618. And we can go with that. And then I think what I'll do is just move this over here to align with the partial lunar eclipse, and then we'll update that forecast later. All right, so there's our new forecast, taking into account everything that we've seen and all the data points that we've seen, and this change in character that we're noticing in the market right now. All right, so let's go and take a look at some of the other stocks and indexes that we cover here. So we're going to do a quick tour of the Dow. So let's open up the Dow and time trades, and I'm going to turn off the mass pressure index and short-term waves. The Dow is giving a forecast here using the machine learning probabilities of a move up into April 26. Let's just double check what's the date of the second eclipse. Second eclipse is May 5th. So yeah, that would be over here somewhere. So yeah, that aligns. There's no big areas of down pressure here, and that doesn't really start until mid-May. So we'll talk about that when the time comes. Okay, let's take a look at the DXY. This is the dollar index, and of course is the kingpin for a lot of dollar denominated assets like like gold and like the S&P. So what we see here is kind of a continuation of the bearish move down. We've got a cluster of pivot lows on May 4th. So despite the green bar on Friday, it looks like for the most part, the trend remains negative on the DXY with a potential pivot low on May 4th. All right, we got a request for gold. I'm going to squeeze that in. Gold is maybe a little bit less clear here. We've got this kind of weird ramping up of pivot lows, which makes it somewhat hard to read. Often pivot lows are, there's a clear cluster. This is not kind of a clear cluster in my book. But if I were to make some sort of forecast here based on this, it looks like this series of pivot lows here will pull back on gold until late April, and then we've got a nice increase in moves up and a reduction in down pressure here heading into early May. Silver is a little clearer. Silver is showing a push up into early next week, April 19th and 20th. And then after that, it looks like it's going to take a pause before the next wave up into May 18th. And let's take a look at crypto. Bitcoin had a nice pop this week, heading up into the low 30s. It completed this correction in time. Now, what's interesting with crypto here is if we put Gann waves on it, you can see the Gann wave pattern. Often what happens is after the Gann wave blue, we get kind of a correction in time before the next pump up. And the next pump up happens between green and blue. you can see how there's a pretty clear pattern there of a pump between green and blue. So we've had our pump. Now the question is, what happens next? Do we just tread water until the next green to blue cycle, which starts May 2nd? We're not getting a lot of help here from the machine learning. That's okay. We can figure it out. But I think that using the mass pressure index, it looks like it's going to have to correct sideways a little bit before it gains some energy heading into the next Gann wave blue here. So if you're into scalping, it's always a good scalping market, but not seeing a big opportunity for a position or a swing trade here. May want to keep an eye on, April 18th to 22nd. That shows some potential here for a move up. Otherwise, I think the best high probability move up is going to be in this zone here from the 27th to the next Gann wave blue, just based on past behavior. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum has more confident forecasts, and it's a little bit more bearish. So this is kind of contradicting what we see in Bitcoin a little bit. So it's something to keep in mind here when there's a lack of alignment between these two. Maybe just size down, be a little bit more careful. But we see this cluster of red. The mass pressure index is also showing some down pressure and some red candles through late April. Looks like there's a window of strength here from April 27th up into mid-May, May 10th, 11th, that kind of area. So there's some good opportunities ahead on the long side, maybe just not for the next couple of weeks here on Ethereum. Okay, and let's wrap things up with the NIFTY. Now, the NIFTY has been behaving very, very well with respect to our Gann fans, and I've really enjoyed sort of tracking this over the last few weeks. So we're at an interesting confluence point here, and we've got the mass pressure index on. You can see the mass pressure index is way up here, and then there's a perceived drop here. So this drop, all this means, this drop is not bearish. Okay, this is not a bearish gap. All that means is that the actual price is below where it was in the composite of the 6 prior cycles. Okay, so basically it means the NIFTY is kind of behaving below average compared to where it was on the average of the 6 prior Venus cycles. So what does that mean? Okay, well, we're poking above a number of Gann fans right here. We've got this 1 by 2 up from 0. We've got this 2 by 1 down from the December high. The mass pressure index is showing it's going to get rejected here. And then after that, it will recover and steadily move up. And we've got a nice kind of alignment here between this little move up in the mass pressure index and the machine learning probabilities. So it looks like there's some good opportunities on the long side. We may have another move down just to set up the next move up. So I'd be a buyer on any weakness in the NIFTY here, especially around the solar eclipse on the 19th and the 20th. Okay, and that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Trade safe, manage your risk, and we'll talk again next week. Thank you.